Okay.
I think what I'm going to do, I think for me, knitting from the center and outside of a cake is just a fail. I mean, so I think what I'm going to do is wind this all into a ball by hand, weigh it, and then wind another separate ball with half the amount of weight.
That's smart. I hate pulling from the center and outside of the cake. I can never get it to stay neat, personally.
I can't either. I think from now on, and I even had the thought, before I start the charcoal section again, I should totally divide the yarn in half. And I was like, no, you'll be fine. Here I am.
Yeah.
Not fine.
Hello, and welcome to Knitting My Shit Together, a podcast where neurodivergence and yarn collide. I'm Annika. I use they, them pronouns, and I am in Moses Lake, Washington. You can find me online on Instagram at Tea-Fueled Living and on Ravelry at Redcatcher.
Hi, my name's Willa. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You can find me on Instagram at TomboyFemBags and on Ravelry at What Willa Knit Today. You can find us both online on Instagram at Knitting My Shit Together.
So let's move on to announcements. First off, we have to say hi to our most favorite viewer and color commentator and probably I'd say our number one fan.
Probably, yeah.
Hi, Arissa. We love you.
We love you, Arissa.
Yes. And so other announcements. We are currently officially in March, which means that this is the last month that the Cover Your Ass KAL is going on.
You can still totally do it.
Which is exciting. If you are monogamously, there we go, knitting it in a fingering weight and decide to start today, you should have enough time. If you are not monogamously knitting it, choosing something in like a DK weight or bulkier would probably be your best option. But it is a really addictive knit once you get going.
It is.
We are officially knitting the Nether Garments pattern by Elizabeth Zimmerman. And it's a recipe, so it's size inclusive. It fits every body literally, because it's based off of your own specific measurements. And yeah, if you need math support or pattern support or yarn support, let Willa or I know and we can hook you up with that. And then also on the topic of the Cover Your Ass knit along, we have designs for enamel pins done, and they've been done. I just finished doing a whole bunch of school stuff, and so I'm slowly returning back to having a brain that can think about other things besides lesson plans and teaching. So because of that, we will hopefully have a pre-order link for those pins. And then also, I think just general
subscriber
knitting my shit together subscriber pins also, hopefully in like the next week or two. So yeah. Let's see, other announcements. Can't think of any other announcements right now.
We'll have lots of giveaways because we have several items to give away at the end. Oh, do you want to do the announcement about stitch groups?
About stitch groups?
The decision we made when we talked right before this?
Gotcha. Okay. So Willa and I have been really big on creating community and making it sustainable and accessible for everyone. And that also includes making it sustainable and accessible for both of us. We've also joked a whole bunch of times that Willa is the ideas person and I am the logistics. And in this case, I think it's another one of those types of things. So we figured out while Willa has been going through and getting deeper into recovery that she is definitely more introverted, and hosting Stitch Group for her is not a sustainable or accessible thing. And for me, since I'm extroverted, like, it is. And so Willa's going to be stepping back from moderating and hosting Stitch Group, and I will be solely hosting and moderating Stitch Group for now. We may in the future be looking for other posse of weirdos who would be willing to step up and co-moderate when needed. It wouldn't be like an every week thing, but just in case sort of thing. So if you have an interest in that, you can feel free to DM me. And we can discuss it and what that would look like. I do have to come up with some guidelines and ground rules to go around that. But if you have a general interest in that, feel free to message me.
And really, this is about me practicing radical acceptance about myself and being like, okay, yeah, this is tiring for me now. Not because of all you, but because I'm an introvert. And so being around it just is. And that's okay. But just so you know, another thing I mentioned to Annika when we talked about it is that doesn't mean I'll never be in Stitch Group again. I think I will actually, I'll pop in every now and then when I feel game and up to it. But it'll just be more of a want thing and not a should thing. And that's good, because shitting on yourself is dumb, is silly. I'm trying not to use the word dumb. Is unproductive. Shitting on yourself is unproductive. Well, sometimes you can't help shitting on yourself, but yeah. Shoulding, you can.
Valid.
Are
there any other announcements?
I think so.
I don't think so. Okay. Let's move on to FOs. Do you have any FOs?
I do. I have one.
Yay.
My friendship socks are done.
Woohoo!
I really like them. This base is so squishy, which everybody had said beforehand, but once you actually finish a whole sock and experience the squish, it is legit.
It is.
This is Mud Punch yarn, her Harmony Rainbow colorway. It is very bright, which I love, for socks. And I used my vanilla pattern I use for myself. I do toe up and an afterthought heel. I just did it all in this yarn and didn't worry about matching stripes or anything. And I'm really happy with them. They came out quite well.
They're awesome.
Mm-hmm. I love them. So that's my only whip.
You mean FO?
FO, yeah. You know what I mean. How about
it's like one moments where I'm like, I'm pretty sure you mean FO, but I could have completely zoned out and we could have been on that topic long enough. I don't know. ADHD is a real gift, friends. I just
it is.
Don't even.
Speaking of which, hey everyone, buddy, if you're traveling and you have ADHD and you take meds for it, let me tell you, I'm going to Sweden in a few weeks and it's a lot to get ready because Adderall's illegal in Sweden. But if it's prescribed to you from somewhere else, you can bring it. But I have to have like a note from my psychiatrist, like all the things. So, yeah.
That's nice that if you, like, since it is illegal there, if you have the note, they're like, yes, you can still keep taking it.
Yeah.
It is nice instead of them just confiscating it.
That's true. If they give me a hassle at customs, I was like, I'll just start crying and then they'll get nervous and hopefully let me in. Okay. What are your FOs?
I have one, and it is my Namu sweater, which I am currently wearing. Whoa. Stop. Where'd it go?
So did it block out how you wanted? It looks like it did.
It blocked out exactly how I wanted, which is great.
It looks so good on you, Annika.
Thank you. The sleeves are still a little short, but like that's because my arm span is 3 inches longer than my height. So that's no fault of the pattern. It's just I have
long arms.
And I also I have long arms and don't mind having a 3/4 length sleeve. So I'm not going to go back and fix it because I just don't care. But yeah, no, I absolutely adore the sweater. It's really comfortable. It blocked out exactly how I wanted. The pattern was super fun. I want to make another one already, which I think says something about it because I'm generally a knit it once and I'm done forever type of person. But I really enjoyed this that I want to knit another one. So the pattern is the Namu sweater by Knit Boop. And then.
And do you know when is it being released? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, it's being released, I believe, March 14th.
Okay.
So in just under 2 weeks, I believe URA is planning on releasing it. And it's really cool, too, because URA's big thing is making all of her patterns accessible. And so she releases all of her patterns for free and then asks for coffee donations if you can afford it for her pattern, which is just amazing. So if you've ever want to knit a cable knit sweater but cannot afford it, this would be a good one to go with, and it's size inclusive. So yeah, it's amazing. It was honestly one of the best testing experiences I've ever had.
You hauled ass on that sweater.
What?
You hauled ass on that sweater.
I finished the whole body of the sweater in 4 days, I think. 5 days? 5 days. So I really enjoyed knitting it. I want to knit another one. I enjoyed it that much. So yeah, the yarn that I used was Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in the Celestial colorway. This is the worsted weight base. And yeah, I personally knit the size G, which is the 55-inch bust, and it has a couple inches of positive ease. And yeah, I would just say make sure you gauge swatch. Really important to gauge swatch for this sweater.
Especially with cables.
What?
Especially with cables.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with cables. So yeah. So that's it for my FOs. Cool. Let's move on to whips. Do you have any whips?
Yes. Okay, I have a couple whips. One is this, which is ridiculously close to being an FO, and I can tell you the story. I'll just show you the ones I've worked on. So this is my Lion-Hearted Swan Show. Look at that.
So pretty.
The pattern is by Tiffany Lynn Hand Knits. And I am knitting it all in Forest Fiber Arts yarn in the colorways Night and Rusty Armor, Winter Birch, and a charcoal that Nikki dyed up for me to go with this. And I love it. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever knit. And I'm only 2 inches from this cuff being done. And it's knit, the cuffs and lower darker part of the sleeves are knit with the yarn held double. And when before I started the second sleeve, I thought, Willa, you should probably like divide it, into 2 balls, and rather than pulling from the middle and outside. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. And then this happened. So now I had to cut the yarn. So I'm going to have to weave in an extra end. I am now untangling this. Then I will weigh it and wind half of it off into another ball and finish and hopefully have it blocking tonight. So by next week, it will be an FO.
Sweet.
I'm really pumped. What else? I'm also working. I also did good work this week on my knee highs. Well, decent work. I did more work on the sweater, but this is my second sock. These are the Calf Huggers by Lizzie, who is at A Sea of Stones. And I am test knitting this for her. Don't know when the pattern's going to be released. This is my second. The first one is here, the first knee high. And I knit this using stealth striping yarn we won't mention. And I also used the gray was dyed for me by Spun Noma Diddy Co. And I just want to give alternatives. So people you could get self-striping yarn from is, I know Malia Made It is going to be dyeing up yarn and potentially kits for this, I think. I'm not for sure, but Malia Made It always sells self-striping yarn, and that would be a great place to go to get some. You could also go to Mud Punch, like the self-striping yarn I used earlier, and you don't have to micro-stripe like I did. You can just do self-striping all the way up, and then you would just need 2 skeins though then of self-striping, and you would need a 3rd skein or minis for your cuff, toes, and heels. But I decided to micro-stripe to kind of tone down the pastel vibe going on in the stealth striping yarn. So yeah, I'll give you more info when the pattern gets released. I'll be sure to put it somewhere where you all can see, but yeah, I'm just working on the second sock. I basically have 2 more color stripes to go before I start the calf increases. And yeah, I'm hoping to knock these out and be really working on them diligently after I finish the Swan Show later. And then once these are done, focus my attention on my nether garments. And I think I might we'll see how far I get on my nether garments in the next 2 weeks, but if I don't finish them before I go to Sweden, I'll be bringing them with me to finish. So, yeah. Because that'll be I'll have, 15 hours on a plane both ways. I mean, 7 each way or 8 each way, so that lends itself to lots of knitting time. And I don't know, I might try bringing an Ambien to sleep, but I'm afraid of taking an Ambien on a plane and having it not work and then not being able to do anything else. I'm even nervous about taking a trazodone and not having it work.
Yeah.
So I might just see what my body and brain do and then deal with it that first day, and then just try and go to bed at a normal Swedish bedtime that first day. We'll see. Yeah.
Sweet.
So,
do you have any other whips?
I mean, I've done some spinning, but I don't feel like taking the bobbins off my wheel. But that Rambouillet, the blue Rambouillet from Forest Fiber Arts, I'm plying it now.
Ooh.
I have 1 bobbin full that I have to put on my nitty knotty, and then I should get 2 to 2.5 bobbins full out of it. So that will probably be done for next week too.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
That's it for my whips. How about you?
Well, I am obviously working on my nether garments. I have 15 more increases left for leg number 2, and then I am done. which is really exciting. Well, then I'm done with the leg part. And then I get to join the legs, which
Yay.
I'm super excited about. So, like I can actually see the finish line with these, and that's making me really happy.
I'm excited about joining the legs, but I have to say, because I'm on my second leg too, I'm nervous about the crotch situation. Because that's the part that's been troublesome for people to figure out. Because I will say Elizabeth Zimmerman is fairly vague in her crotch instruction descriptions. And then you have your anatomy to figure in. Like, if you have a penis, you're going to do something different than if you don't. And it's just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do for the crotch situation yet, but that's okay because I'm not there yet. So I'm using Woolies cakes, Lion Brand Woolies cakes in the Poseidon colorway. And yeah, like
the
whole color is so pretty. So these are going to be super fun.
They are. What are you going to wear yours with? How will you wear them?
Probably under skirts and dresses at work would be my guess. Because I can't wear these to work just by themselves. They're not school appropriate. So yeah, so I will most likely wear these underneath skirts at work, which is good because my teacher who I'm also doing student teaching with next year, her classroom is always freezing because she runs really, really warm.
How old is she?
I run the exact opposite. I'm always cold. So
how old is she?
She's
about
in her 40s, I think, maybe 50s.
She's running warm. It's the perimenopause. The struggle is real.
She's always ran warm, according to her. So,
well, I always ran cold, and now I'm always running warm.
Yeah, she's been a teacher for 41 years, and or excuse me, 21 years.
I was going to say,
and has said that like she's always kept her classroom super, super cold, like as cold as she can get it, because she's always run warm. So, yeah, I think it's just her body.
Yeah.
So let's see other whips that I have. I am currently. Thank you. I'm currently sample knitting a cowl, a colorwork cowl for Forest Fiber Arts, and it's out of her gorgeous yarn. What is the cowl called?
I wish colorwork looked as good as it's going to look in the end before you blocked it, like as you're knitting it.
I agree. Like I was nervous, or like with my first couple of color projects. I'm like, did I just like completely screw this up, or no? It just needs to be blocked. So this is the Lumi cowl, and that's pretty much all I know about it. And I don't know what colorway specifically of Forest Fiber Arts yarn I'm using, but
people, it's Forest Fiber Arts. You could.
It's just one of those like another one of those Nikki is magic moments because like pink is still not my jam. But like I love this yarn. Like I don't know.
So just it's really so you know, people, any project you have that's color work, you could basically take any Forest Fiber Arts yarn, not even plan it, pick 3 random colors, and it'll look good together.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So, yeah, I also just really enjoy color work. Like, color work is my jam. And yeah, I started this 2 nights ago, and I'm a third of the way done with the color work chart, so that's exciting.
Nice. Yay.
So, which is good because I have to get this sent out to her by the end of the month. So, let's see other whips that I have. I've worked on a lot of stuff this week. I have not worked on those.
Will you block it before you ship it to her?
Yeah, I'll block it before I ship it to her. I grabbed the wrong socks. There we go. I got a decent amount of socks done. Since the last episode. So these are my school socks. They stay in my work backpack, and I bring them with me, and generally work on them during recesses, which works out pretty well. So this was clearance yarn. This is Symphony 4-ply. And I don't know what colorway it is because the tag was interesting. So
just so folks know too, I can't find that anywhere. So I won't pop it up here. Like last week I looked and I was going to find it and then I was like, oh, forget it. So it won't be named on the titles below like it normally is, and my apologies.
But I do have a Ravelry project page where it did pop up there, so you can find it there.
Oh, really?
If you are, yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll go there for the info and it can pop up.
Okay. And then my last project that I worked on this week is the cable knit socks that I am creating. So, yeah,
Is this like a labor of love for you?
Yes, it really is. Like, I love knitting socks, but like the idea of knitting knee highs for someone else is just like a little too much for me. I wish I could stop where they're at right now and just be like, here you go. But I agreed to knee highs. So we're still going. But yeah, I also too like tweaking someone else's pattern to get what I wanted it to look like was also very satisfying. So the pattern that I tweaked is the boyfriend socks. It's a free cable knit sock pattern. It has 3 sizes of socks available, which is really cool. It just has the main cable and then like these ridges, the 2 ridges on either side, except for I turned those into mini cables too. Those were just plain stockinette and then garter rib or ridged, but I turned them into mini cables. I am knitting these toe up with an afterthought heel. And the yarn that I'm using is Patton's Croy sock in the muslin colorway. And I'm using US 2 needles for it. And yeah. So that's it for my whips.
Yay.
And now I'm stuck and tangled. One sec. If our viewers don't know yet, I'm all about the budget yarns. Patton's Croy is only like $4.99 or $5.99 at Joann's generally for a 50-gram ball, and they have self-striping colorways besides like plain colors. So if you are looking into getting into sock making but don't have the budget for like an indie dyed skein, Patton's Croy is a really good option. It is one of the thicker sock yarns too, which is nice, and it's wool. So.
Okay, hold on. I have an idea. It's a spontaneous Willa idea.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know how you love these spontaneous Willa giveaways. Okay. This is Patton's Croy, one of their most well-known colorways, which is the blue striped drag. We're going to give this away. This is enough to do a pair of socks. So if you would like to win these, and if you're like a member of Annika's Sock Cult, or you want to be a member of Annika's Sock Cult, but need yarn, here's a good start. So to be entered in the drawing, give a like to this video and leave a comment about, what should the comment be about?
Tell us a weird dream you've had.
Yep. Leave a comment with a weird dream you've had, and you will be entered into the drawing. And we will draw when we record the next episode.
Okay.
And I will ship these to you. So their sock yarn comes in 50-gram balls. And so you need to do a full pair if you're not just doing footies. So yeah, you can win a set of Patton's Cry socks. Boom. I love spontaneous giveaways.
And it is now in my planner, so we actually remember to do this next week when we record.
Yep.
Sweet. Should we move on to the mental health moment?
Yeah. Mental health moment. Today's mental health moment is brought to you by the number 5, which is how many miles I biked yesterday, and the letter U for unrealistic expectations. So we're going to talk about expectations and having realistic expectations. It was my idea for the topic. We rotate really, but we don't always have to go in turns. We'll just talk and come up with what the topic was, but this was my idea because it's something I've been learning about, practicing this week and kind of learning about. So one thing is this. Turns out, I think before I had my last mental health crisis and was hospitalized, or right when I got out of the hospital and started going to therapy, I thought, okay, probably within 6 months, I'm going to be totally fine and back to where I was. That is not how it worked. Turns out.
That's what I thought too. It's this is just going to be a small blip. They'll put me on meds and then all of a sudden I'll feel way better and there will be no more problems ever again. That was a lie.
And I'd had other depressive episodes, and I even had ones close to as bad as this. I just wasn't getting the best treatment for myself, and I think I don't know what happened, but how that worked itself out, but it did. Well, probably by unhealthy coping strategies that I decided to unlearn this time. So all of it to say, when you're at the place where it's okay, I've had a mental health crisis and come to that point where I've realized I need to learn what healthy recovery actually is and do it. That's a process. And everybody's different and every brain and life is different. But for most people I've heard from, it's something that does not wrap itself up historically in 6 months. Because I think it generally involves a whole new way of learning and thinking about things and behaving and coping and all the things. And for me, before my mental health crisis, I was an avid cyclist. Did bike camping and touring. I logged thousands of miles. And I loved it. And it's something I do want to get back to because I love it. And it's really good for my body and my brain. It just makes me feel really good in my body and my brain. But right after the hospital, it was really triggering for me. It was so triggering for me. And I think what happened is I put this thing on myself, I would be okay, I'll take it slow. But I didn't really understand or know how to take it slow. So my version of taking it slow was, okay, maybe one day I'll bike this many miles. And then the next day I can bike double that. And that, it turns out, is not taking it slow. So I've had to learn, I think what's great about DBT is one thing it modeled for me is the idea of what baby steps look like that I can now transfer to different areas of my life, not just like therapeutic goals, but like exercise goals, or like that's not really an exercise goal, it's just a goal I have of hobbies and activities, because I would really like to go touring again on my bike and all of that. So yesterday, so this is what realistic goals have looked like for me. This is what I've discovered. I can't do it like I tried to before because that will not work. But just being really kind and gentle with myself. So one thing I did is I knew my bike because my bike is Edith. She's named after Edith Piaf. And she had kind of sat still for a while over the winter, and normally I bike through the winter. So I knew she would need just a once over by my bike mechanic, Carl, at Perennial Cycle. Carl's awesome. And so I knew that even though Carl and the folks at Perennial are amazing, there was still something slightly, I don't know. I just wanted to be supported the first time I went back. So like that's about asking for what I needed. So my friend Jen, who also goes to Perennial, I asked her, like, I want to start riding again, but would you be willing to go with me to Perennial? And she was like, yeah. She was like, do you think they won't be? And I'm like, oh no, I think they'll totally be awesome. I just think it will feel good to me to have somebody there. And she was like, yeah, totally. So we did that yesterday, and I brought in Edith, and Carl gave her a quick once over, lubed the chain, made sure everything was good to go. And then we went on a short bike ride. And so I said, okay, let's make a route between here and back to my house that we can add a little so it can be a little bit roundabout, but not a ton because baby steps. And she was like, okay. And so we did that. And I did about 5 miles, which I know some people who don't cycle, that sounds like a lot, but it's really not a lot when you're biking around. It's just, for me, it's not. And like, that's a baby first step, is a 5-mile ride. So what's funny is I noticed the urge within myself to then be like, okay, now this week I can up my mileage. And I was like, okay, well, that is not baby steps. So what I'm going to do instead is set time limits for myself. So for the next 2 weeks, I'm not going to before I go to Sweden, I'm not going to let myself ride more than 5 miles a day and kind of force myself to that limit, even if I want to go more. Because just know that sometimes when I've wanted to do more, I can't trust myself to like set those healthy limits yet without an outside imposition of a limit. Does that make sense? That I'll just keep increasing it. So like tonight I have to go to Target and pick up some prescriptions. So that's like 3 miles round trip maybe. So I'll go do that tonight, get in a few miles. Maybe tomorrow get in a few. Tomorrow I'm going to go to the museum with Matthew because there's this exhibition that's happening that I really want to see. This like activist kind of artist, I can't remember their name. Mia, Minneapolis Institute of Arts, I call Mia. They're doing an exhibition all surrounded around refugees. And it looks so good. So my partner Matthew and I are going to go to that and we'll bike there. So yeah, I'm just proud of myself for making this realization and doing like the radical acceptance of expectations and expectation management and how recovery, I'm like, in October it will be 2 years. So I'm like 1.5 years out and I'm still figuring out what my newness looks like. And it's a process and is going to take time. What are unrealistic expectations you've had around this? Around either like recovery or living with mental illness or what?
I mean, like I said, like I expected when I got out of the hospital and was put on a bunch of, or even when I went into the hospital, like I was expecting to be there for a couple of days, like be put on medications that were going to magically fix everything, and I was going to feel instantly better. And that didn't happen. And in case people don't know at this point, like the average time spent in a inpatient setting at most is generally 5 days. Generally 5 days.
Because it's not meant for long-term treatment. They're like mental health wards in hospitals. It's like a triage. It's like the ER. It's like, let's just get this person stable, begin meds, but it's not like long-term treatment.
Yeah. They couldn't get me stable. And between trying to find medications that either A, my body would tolerate and not have an allergic reaction to, or medications that wouldn't make it so I slept all day, or just made it so I didn't feel suicidal. I was in the hospital for 32 days in the mental health ward, which is not the
typical
normal, I guess. But I do also want to preface that with I was also not the person that had been there the longest at that point. So like everybody's brain is different, and depending on what your care team looks like, that might be what your story is too, or you might be there longer, and like there's nothing wrong with that either. But yeah, so the whole thing didn't go to plan, and then like after I got out of the hospital, I got stuck into an intensive DBT program, which like before I got out of the hospital, like therapy wasn't like really something that was on my radar. Like I was literally expecting like, oh, they're going to give me medications that don't make me feel depressed anymore. I'll take those for a while and I'll be cured and never have to think about this ever again. And I'll just be like at this little blip on my radar.
Spoiler alert. That didn't happen.
So that didn't happen. And instead of just having a depressive episode, like I got a laundry list of diagnoses. And so, yeah. And so, like, I don't know, like, I feel like a big part of recovery for me was learning how to make realistic expectations of myself. And, like, a big part of that was learning how to be mindful and learning how to be present. Because if you're not being mindful and staying in the present and consistently being in denial about like what your situation actually is, then it's a lot easier to make unrealistic expectations, I think, of yourself. But if you're being mindful regularly, and if you're staying in the present and working hard to stay mindful and be in the present, then it's a lot easier to, one, have realistic expectations, and then surrounding like recovery and like what that looks like for you. And then also too, I think it's a lot easier when you're being mindful and to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like not get sucked into the what's the word I'm looking for? Like not pity party, but like the life should be different trap that I think that goes along with unrealistic expectations. So yeah, so some ways that personally I like to stay mindful is like being accepting of my emotions as they come and how I feel in whatever situations arise, and not placing judgments on those emotions. The other part that goes along with it is sitting with those emotions when they come up, because emotions are your body's way of telling you how it feels about the situation. And like, it's just information. And since I'm a data nerd, like, it's my jam. So maybe I can blame DBT for making me a data nerd, because they were the ones who told me to look at feelings and emotions as just information. And when you start DBT and they start you on this, like, you do a lot of noticing of emotions and how you're feeling them and where you're feeling them. And like, depending on which program or how your program works, like, they might even have you like fill out sheets when you're feeling emotions, so you can like legitimately take data about like it. And that's what mine did. And so maybe this is just another one of those areas where like,
I hated having to do the journals every day in the end. In the beginning, they were really helpful to me, but then
yeah,
towards the end, as you become more skillful, I was just like, why do I have to write down every stupid feeling? And yeah.
I found them helpful personally, because like all the way through, just because then you could see patterns like within yourself. Because generally when you're going through DBT and whatnot, like, you will still be experiencing some of the same situations that you were experiencing before you started DBT. And so being able to see emotional patterns and how you reacted to those emotions, like,
no, it's totally a healthy coping mechanism. And in terms of not emotions, but behavior, there's research that shows if there's a behavior you want to change or stop or start or whatever, just the simple act of documenting that behavior will influence how often you do it.
mm-hmm.
Like, if you change nothing else about your life, just that will change it. Will influence things.
Yeah. So yeah, so I think being mindful and being present in your emotions is a good way to help not make unrealistic expectations of yourself, and then also to, I think the other part that goes along with all of this is making sure that you have community that's supporting you, in whatever way that looks like that's healthy for you. When you are isolating, it's a lot easier to make unrealistic expectations of yourself, because you don't have that outside source, either A, telling you, like, giving you perspective of like how things really are. Because when you're in crisis or even just depressed or super anxious, like,
well, you don't end up in a mental health unit because you're like having really objective, rational perspective on what's going on in your reality. Like, that's not how you end up in those places.
So surrounding yourself with community, whether it's online community, whether that's in-person community, like, making it so that there are other people who can give you perspective and support you, is a really helpful tool for not making unrealistic expectations, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, heads up, if you're new to a recovery journey, keep in mind about expectations and know that If you are setting unrealistic ones right now, that's okay, too. That's part of the process, too. Like, you'll learn and grow from that. Like, don't let it become another thing to beat yourself up about.
Mm-hmm.
Just know that as you peel back layers of unhealthy coping strategies and learn new ones, your desires to overdo it will abate. Usually. Somewhat. And you'll be able to see them differently. I think.
I think so.
Yeah. I think that's it about unrealistic expectations.
So, speaking of community, we host Instagram Lives every Wednesday and Friday. On Wednesday, we go over the top 5 what's hot right now patterns on Ravelry and call out designers for either A, not being size inclusive, or B, using problematic yarn. And on Fridays, we share a featured maker. Generally, it's a BIPOC maker or someone who belongs to another marginalized identity. And we normally don't take horribly long to go through either of those. And so most of the time that we're spent live is just hanging out with whoever joins us, and it's actually like a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it.
Isn't it weird how my introverted self, I like our lives, but group feels totally different to my brain?
I totally understand. And then on Saturdays we have Stitch Group, and the link for that I believe is in the description box below, and it's also in our link tree on our Instagram profile, and it's free to attend. You're welcome to come and join us in whatever capacity is accessible for you. We have some people that will join with no mic and no video, and we'll just chat in the chat box, and that's like totally cool. They still get responded to, and like they're still very much a valued part of our group. But we realize also that with like neurodivergent people, that like being face to face video chatting wise and having to be on is like too much sometimes, and like so we just want you to be able to join in whatever capacity you feel comfortable with. So yeah, I think that's it.
Hopefully I will get this mess untangled and finish the sweater today. I mean, I'm making progress.
Yeah, you are.
You know what I was wondering? I hate to go on a tangent right before we end, but if anybody has feedback about this or knows a sewing pattern where I can make my own and try it, although I'm pretty sure it would be easy to figure out. So I wonder, do you think like the yarn bra things would fix this problem?
I don't know. I've never used a yarn bra before.
I think Sunshine does. I need to talk to her about it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for joining, folks. It was really awesome to have you here. If you like the podcast, give us a like. You can subscribe too by hitting the subscribe button. And if you want to enter the giveaway for the 2 skeins of Patton's Croy sock yarn, go ahead and like this video and leave a comment sharing a weird dream you've had. And we will do the drawing next week when we record the episode and announce the winner. Yay. Okay. Yeah. Bye, everybody. See you.